Likkutei Torah. Likkutei Torah now say 52. I'm sorry, Chav Zayin. We have a few lines left to finish the Maimer. Chav Zayin, first column, 15 lines down. Okay. The Alter Rebbe is explaining like this. The whole purpose of eating is to elevate the sparks. So when you get full, you have a lot of sparks to elevate. But when you only eat a kazayas, so then obviously there's very little sparks. So then Hashem considers it, Hashem reckons it as if you ate a lot of things. And that's what he says, Yis Hashem, Panav Elach, Hashem is going to elevate yourself to such a level that even the little bit is like a lot. And then he says, but how do you combine infinite with finite together? Because it says, Yis Hashem Panav Elach, Hashem is going to elevate to the in a level higher than Ishtalshalis. And if it's higher than Ishtalshalis, that Gilui comes down. So the question is, how can the infinite reveal itself in the finite? So that's what he says, that's the level of V'yasim L'cha Shalom. What is Shalom? Shalom means peace between two opposites. Like he starts saying, Rav Shalom ben Noach, that's what he says. So therefore, Marbim Shalom Ba'ilam, like yesterday we finished off with the Briach HaTichain, the middle pole that held all the boards together from all the sides. So that level is what the Eibishter gives to the Jews, okay? And the last thing we're learning is like this. Okay, let's see, like it says in the Pasuk, these few lines we learned. But it says, Kikel Deya Savaya. Hashem is composed of Deyos plural, Shakir Beis Deyos, that Hashem includes within himself two opinions, so to speak. Shem Shalamaylo Mat Kulamay Kulei Choshuv. So he says, by Hashem, he's the real Yesh, and everything else is Ayin. By us, it's all Ayin, Yesh Mi Ayin. Both are opinions in the Eibishter, meaning both are Torah opinions, but the purpose of Hashem creating Yesh Mi Ayin is for us to make the Yesh back into Ayin, meaning Einei Mulvadi. Which is that you shouldn't desecrate Hashem's name, which means you have to reveal this level of Elokus in the world. And that's what it says. There's a Maimonides how the Gemara says, whoever occupies himself in Torah, Shalom makes peace. Both in the heavenly spheres and the earthly spheres, Hainu. The level of Yichudei Ilah and Yichudei Tata. Okay, in other words, like this. We learned many times in Shari Yichud Shabbos morning, we learned Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, it says in Zayir, is Yichudei Ilah, and Baruch Shem is Yichudei Tata. Let's start with Yichudei Tata. The lower level of Yichud means there is a world, but the world is Batul to Hashem. That's called the lower level of Yichud. The higher level of, that's our perspective. When through Avodah, we come to the realization that the world is really, but is Batul to Hashem. But there is a world, but the world is Batul. Yichudei Ilah means there is no world. There's only the Eibishter. Same thing we learned many times, but it says in Chassidus, there's Eved Neman and Eved Pashut. There's a regular Eved that the master has wills, desires. The Eved has his own wills and desires, but because he's the worker, not the boss, he gives himself up to what the boss wants. That's regular Eved. That's Yichudei Tata, by the way. Then you have a higher level, like it said by Moshe Rabbeinu. Chol Beisi Neman, or what is Moshe Rabbeinu? Eved Neman means he is so bottled to the master, what the master wants is what he wants. You know, there's no will of his own that he's submitting to the master. Right, so therefore Yichudei Ilah in level is higher than Yichudei Tata. Because it's not the pshat, you exist in your bottle. You don't exist. That's a higher level of bittul. Bittul-wise though, it's explained, the lower level of bittul is more bittul than the higher level of bittul. The higher level of bittul is you reach the high level, but after that it's like, that's it, Einei Mulvadi. Bittul-wise, the level of Eved Poshet is a much higher bittul-wise than level of Yichudei Ilah. So it says, that's why when somebody is Eisek B'Torah, that's why we're learning, as we do every Shuas, the number 3 represents the level of peace, of Shalom. The whole emphasis of Matan Torah is V'chedesh Hashlishi Urin Tli, so everything is three. Why? Because the whole Torah, the Gemara says, when you learn Torah, you make peace between heaven and earth. Because you bring down godliness into earth. So he says, the make peace in the higher levels and in the lower worlds. What does it mean, a Talmid Chacham? There's a famous question, why is a Torah scholar called Talmid Chacham? He should be called Chacham. Why is he called student of a Chacham? So the answer is, like the Alter Rebbe is saying here, because Mekabla Mechachma, which is Koyach Ma. Simply, the Mefarshim explain, why is it Talmid Chacham? Because a person who's a really Torah scholar is realize he's only a student. He always wants to learn more, because there's so much more to learn. But here the Alter Rebbe is saying, why is he called Talmid Chacham? Because he's Mekabel from the level of Chachma, which is Bittul. Chachma is Koyach Ma. Is that what? That's the second level. No, the first one is Batel.
Yeah, Batel.
One Batel Ritzeincha is Yichud Tato. Asay Ritzeincha Kitzeinai is Yichud Elo. Batel Ritzeincha means you have a will, but I'm Batel. Asay Ritzeincha Kitzeinai means your will should be his will. It means you don't even have a will. Kleimer Rizel v'Yasim l'chol Shalom. Shoaneis and l'chol b'chinas haShalom. He gives the v'Yasim l'chol Shalom. Hashem gives us the level of Shalom, which is the chibur between two opposites. Li'ez tamid echacham mar m'shalom ba'elam. Aydei dvar havaya zu halacha, by learning dvar havaya, which is halacha. V'amishnah medaberes, like it says, the Mishnah talks through your mouth. V'amer azal. Klei hamachzik bracha Yisrael hu hashalim. The last Mishnah says the only keli Hashem found for bracha is shalom. Shebechinas shalom zal bechinas keli. That because bittul, what is shalom? In order to be peaceful with somebody, you can't have your ego. Because if you have your ego and they have their ego, it ain't going to be peace. Each one of you is going to want what you want. What's the definition of that's what shalom bayis? The husband gives in, the wife gives in. Question: who gives in more? Leave that out for a different conversation. But the bottom line is, you give in, and then that's the level of shalom. And that's the level of Yisa Hashem Panav, which is Ma'alim in Ishtalshus. L'chein. Okay, now so the question is like this. The Alter Rebbe asked the question at the beginning of the Maimer. What does the Malachim came to Hashem and said, you say in the Aseret Dibros, Asher Yisa upon him, you have no favoritism, and yet by Birkas Kohanim you say Yisa Hashem Panav Elach. So Hashem answered that I shouldn't. I tell the Jews only when you're full, and they do it even when they're not full, even when they eat a kazayas, right? So the Alter Rebbe asked, what's the connection between the two? So he explained the whole Maimer was that the whole inyan of eating is v'yasafta deganecha, which follows the avoid of Psukkah Zimra and Birkat Kishma v'afta Hashem Elokecha, and then you come v'yasafta deganecha. What does it mean? The Jew realizes that the whole avoid of him being here in the world is to gather the sparks of Kedusha, not because he likes the food, not because he's a frested up, whatever. He just elevates the spark. So then he says, but a Kazayas doesn't do it. So he says, through the level of Talmidei Chacham that make Shalom, therefore he says, L'chein yesh kreya b'yad Chachamim. Lahatz derech berachas hamazon afil pachas mikshir tzviya min ha'Torah. Therefore, because Chacham have this koyach to bring Shalom in the world, meaning to connect infinite with finite, so therefore they have the ability, just like if you're full and you have all the sparks, you can connect Yivarach Hashem Yishmerach Yar Hashem Panav Elacha, the Eibishter reveals himself to you. So the Chachamim, because they're Marbim Shalom they have that koyach also to do it.
But at the end of Leviathan,
More over there, it's a little, whatever.
Sure, more.
And then he finishes. So the Alter Rebbe basically interpreted the whole Yivarach Hashem, the whole thing. And now he says that's what it says. V'samo Shemi al bnei Yisrael v'ani avarachem. Why? Zeh Shamer Shemi al bnei Yisrael she'ei Shmi nikra lehem. That V'samo Shemi, Hashem says, my name should be put on them. Shendik basic Torah Avaydasa. They become Lemudei Hashem. That they become the ones that are Mamshech Elokus. V'oz v'ani avarachem. Ani Eisius Ayin. So what's it mean, Ani Avarachem? Bittul. Then they can have a bracha because they're bittul. There's shalom. Yachoch Mamayin Timotzi. Hainu B'chinas Yis Hashem Shetei Abrach Mumayla Lamata. That this bracha should come down, bringing down the higher levels of Ishtalshus into the physical world. B'ri B'shav Hashpa Mumayla Lamata Mishtalshus. And that's the level of bracha b'reish, bracha b'sof. That's why it starts Yivarecha Hashem Yishmerecha, and then it says bracha b'seif ani avarachem. In other Birkat Kohanim starts Yivarecha Hashem, and it has v'ani avarachem, which is all the levels of bracha, which is mimata l'mayla, mimayla l'mata through the aveda, mimata l'mayla. Then it comes, and you get the Gilu Nomail. Okay, let's just continue. It's okay. It says, Inyan, this is a Maimed that's officially explaining this Maimed. It says, Vayikra Adam Shemesh, Adam Arishan called names to the animals. Okay, let's just explain this. We learned this in the Maimed itself. It says when Adam Rishon was born, the Malachim came to Hashem and said, "Who's this new, so to speak, the new kid on the block?" So Hashem said, "He's smarter than you." So he said, "Okay, prove it." So he brought all the animals to the Malachim, give it a name. They couldn't. He brought them to Adam Rishon. He called them names. Okay. He says, "For this, it's good to call Sus and Chamor and Gama, whatever it is." So Chassidus explains, well, it's the, every Tam, Dick, and Harry calls their dog's name. I mean, what's the big... So Adam Rishon was able to see the lifeline, which is the concept of a name, the lifeline that brings the highest levels of the neshama into the person. So now the Rebbe is going to ask, L'chaira, Adam Rishon was created last. So when everything existed before Adam Rishon did. So obviously they had names. So what did Adam Rishon do? They had names. 1 second. Based on what I wrote in Shar Yichud V'Amunah. The name that something has is Atzir from a Chaya Isa Nimshach Me'asar Maimaris. That comes through the variations of the Asar Maimaris. In Cain, the Alter Rebbe says, if they already existed, and the name is the lifeline, obviously the lifeline they had. It says even the Yitush Kadamach. Okay, so the question is, what did Adam Rishon do if they had names already? He didn't make the, so it says, so he says like this, Aval Inyanu Kamesha Kosov Shehu Kodesh Meisem. It says Vayikra Adam Shemes. What does Vayikra mean again? Hamshacha, when you call somebody, they come to you. Shamshich Mehelim Alagilui Vaidei Zehel Isam. It says like this. They had names, but they were concealed. That means the name, which is the Chayes, was concealed. What revealed, what was mamshech, that level of alukus into the physical object through the Asar Maimaris, that was Adam Rishon. Why? Why was he able to elevate them? Ki Adam which is the level of bittul. Mashen kein daimim tzemei chai comes from the Elam Ateu. Like we learned in all the other Maimarim, Sheish Yom, all those Maimarim, that why can a person sustain himself from something lower than him. So that's the word of Hashem in it. I has his own word of Hashem. So he says the word of Hashem, Nasadim, is from Tikkun, and this is from Tehu. So when a person eats, they actually elevate the sparks from Elam HaTehu. Huh? The gifts of Yaakov to Esav, though, were from Elam HaTehu. You remember in Torah we learned that when Yaakov sent Esav gifts, what did he send? Gemalim, Chamorim. Why weren't they kosher animals? Because, and all Karbanis are from kosher animals, only from Tikkun. Yaakov Avinu was hoping to be Mevadet Esav, which is Elam HaTehu. So he sent him things from the world of Tehu to elevate him. By the Kriyas Shemus, he was mamshich the level of bittul. Listen to this. Ke'inyan Chamer Shora Pinchas ben Yoyer. So the famous donkey of Pinchas ben Yoyer, Shahi Madregas Beimus Shel Sheishis Mei Bereishis. The Gemara says in Shabbos, if the earlier generations were like angels, were like people. If they were like people, we're like donkeys. And not like the donkey of Rabbi Pinchas ben Yoyer. Rabbi Pinchas ben Yoyer, the Gemara tells a bunch of stories with his donkey. His donkey was stolen. The animal came to the guys that stole him. He refused to eat because the animal only ate from tithed, unstolen food. So the animal was starving. So they said, "Good loss. When you have a dead animal here," so he sent it out. Animal finds a way home. So when the animal was coming, it was whatever the sounds donkeys make. So Rabbi Pinchas ben Yoyer said to his kids, "Quick, go give him food to eat because he hasn't eaten for days." Rabbi Pinchas ben Yoyer had a very unique chamor. So he says it was in the level of the chamor of Sheishis Mei Bereishis, shetiknum adam arishon aydei shekadol hem shemus. Okay, al ma'achshav anu tzrichim levarchim. But now we need to elevate those animals. Hainu fishay de chet yardum. Okay, shviras hakelim and miyat halavana and chetei tadas are all interconnected. It says in Chassidus how the world was created by Hashem. It was a perfect world. How is it possible? Where did the level of evil in the world come from? There had to be a source of evil to be able to do the Eitz Hadas, to be able to sin. So it says in Kabbalah and Chassidus that when Hashem lessened the moon, on the fourth day he lessened the moon, so the Miyat HaYoreach has to do with the Chet Eitz Hadas. That was the cause. Is a much more refined level of evil, but it was still miyat halavana, it's still evil, relatively speaking. That was the cause of the Chet Eitz Hadas. What was the cause of miyat halavana? What allowed that to happen? So it says Shviras HaKelim. In other words, Shviras HaKelim of Tehu, that the Kelim, whatever, broke, whatever it means, we learned what it means. That was the cause of Miyat HaYoreach, and so they're all interconnected. It says one of the reasons why women don't do Kiddush Levana. They do all the other mitzvahs. Why don't they do Kiddush Levana? So it says in Halacha they don't do it. They shouldn't do it. So it says why? The Magen Avraham brings down, I think from the Shiloh, because Miyat HaYoreach is connected to Chet Eitz Hadas. They cause the Chet Eitz Hadas, so therefore they don't do Miyat HaYoreach. It's all interconnected.
Is it a subconscious effect that the Miyat had on Abu Talib?
No, that brought a level of evil in the world that allowed a worse level of evil of Chet Eitz Hadas.
Isn't the sparks of Kedusha coming down?
Yeah, but they fell down very, very, very low into Shosh Chipsat Meis, into Klipis Nega and Shosh Chipsat Meis. The kosher food we eat, sourced in Tehu. but it fell into klipas noiga. Trade for things that we're not allowed to eat also comes from elateo, but that fell even lower into shloshim satameis. So those sparks are even higher because they fall lower, right?
Yes.
That's why we learned about tshuva who elevates, but tshuva that the avedas become mitzvahs. Their mila over a tzaddik is a tzaddik can't elevate shoshkim satameis. And by them sinning with shoshkim satameis, and now they transformed it into a mitzvah, so they elevate shoshkim satameis, and then the tzaddik can't do that. Or like we learned many different times, how is it possible that Mashiach and David HaMelech come from Rus, who was from Moav, that was a descendant of Lot and his two daughters, mamish incest. And that's from the mother's side. And the father's side is Bayas that came from Yud and Tamar. Father-in-law, daughter-in-law. Yeah, before Matan Torah, Yibam was with any relative. But bottom line, after Matan Torah, the Yud and Tamar's kid would be a mamzer. Yeah? And not only David HaMelech and Mashiach, but Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu was the child after Matan Torah would be a mamzer. Mamish a mamzer. Because a nephew and an aunt. A nephew is not allowed to marry an aunt. An uncle can marry a niece. In certain place says it's a mitzvah. Other place says you don't do it, whatever. But Moshe Rabbeinu would have, after Matan Torah, he would have been a mamzer. But Matan Torah, Amram and Yocheved had to divorce. So how is it possible? How is it possible that Moshe Rabbeinu, yeah, before Matan Torah he wasn't a mamzer, but bottom line is he came from a relationship that after Matan Torah would be a mamzer. And David HaMelech and Mashiach, how is it possible? So the answer is certain neshamas can't come normal. They're too great to become normal. They have to come from such a level of kedusha that fell so low into shoshim satameis, and those neshamas we find that level of shoshim satameis. In other words, things that are super, super great can't come normal. Have to go like this.
It sounds like we should also look for shoes made from pig skin, better than from cow's skin.
Doesn't it say?
You buy shoes which are more comfortable and cheaper.
Rabbi, doesn't it say that these relationships are actually from much higher places?
That's what I said. They come from because they fell so low, they come from a higher place. That's why down here they're forbidden, because we can't elevate those relations. But those tzaddikim were able to elevate those relations. And it had to be that way.
See, Rabbi, also two sisters from Leah, also in the
Yeah, but that the Rebbe has even in Pshat, there's a Tatum for that.
Not as strong.
After Matan Torah, have to the Shvat will be B'Mazerim. Yeah, I mean, any kid from Rachel, well, it's only two kids, but those kids from Rachel, Yosef and Binyamin. You can imagine Mishkan Shiloh was by Yosef, and Binyamin was the Mokem HaMikdash. Yeah, if they would have been born after Matan Torah, Yosef and Binyamin would be a mamzer. Mamzerim. You're not allowed to marry two sisters when one's alive.
That would make them mamzerim.
Yeah.
It's just allowed.
No, it's mamzerim. And that's why Rachel had to die when they came back into Eretz Yisrael. According to those opinions, that he only kept Torah in Eretz Yisrael. Whatever. But the Rebbe doesn't learn like that. Rashi doesn't learn like that. But after Matan Torah, Yosef and Binyamin would be mamzerim.
They say we kept Torah, they kept Torah.
What?
Not only. We said that they kept Torah.
Yeah.
Then it says that before Matan Torah, after Matan Torah.
No, the Rebbe explains. We learned this many times. The Rebbe explains why Yaakov Avinu married Rachel and Leah, l'chayre, if he kept the Torah. Because Torah said he had to marry her. No? That's in Pshat, the Rebbe says.
That's a promise.
But yeah. Okay, anyway, okay. Well, beard is how they are. How do we refine these parts of Kedusha? This is through the Ma'acholim that a person eats. Umavarech aleim betchila v'sof, shaydei zeh misalim v'nechlam b'chinas Adam. Then they become elevated to the level of Adam because they become blood and flesh of the person. Somebody asked me yesterday, why is it that animals eat treifa food, kosher animals eat treifa things, and yet we eat them? So why aren't we eating treif? The answer is once they eat them, they become their blood and flesh. They're not treif. They change their essence. DNA changed.
What's the difference, Rabbi, from the first part?